Hey everybody, welcome back. It's a Super Auto Pets tier list continuation, this time with the expansion pack added. So you may be very eagle-eyed and, notice this. This is a different tier list. I couldn't add the expansion animals to the previous one, so I found another tier list where they had the animals on it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the food, so I'm going to pop back to the other one, and then I'll do the food on a literal separate page, which I think makes some degree of sense. But let's add the expansion animals to this list and see honestly how I feel about free-to-pay versus the expansion animals. Because I think, and I mentioned this before, even though I did the little test of free-to-play versus expansion and came out equal, I think the free or the base game, the animals are stronger in it, with some minor exceptions, and you'll see those now. Also, I just want to clarify right now, I'm not going to add the Sloth to my list. So a lot of people won't have seen this. The creature, the Sloth. I don't remember exactly how you get this requirement. I think you have to combine three... I think you have to combine like 3 summoned creatures, like the bees together, to get like a level 3 bee, and it makes a Sloth. But I think it's literally just like an Easter egg. It's not really a creature. So I'm not going to add it onto my tier list, because I don't think it does anything. But I don't actually know, so basically because of my inability to know if this is actually useful or not, I'm just going to leave it off. Beetle. Tier 1 expansion pack animal. If you feed it food, it gives animals in your shop +1 health. I think when you level it up, it gives them then 2 health, then 3 health. I think the best build for the expansion pack is picking up a Beetle and then a Ladybug and just dominating the game. Putting, health to animals in the shop, and you can really ball out of control early on. For that reason, I think you're like an ant. You might even be slightly better than an ant. This might be the most unpopular take in the history, and I think it's so unpopular I'm actually not going to do it. You potentially can get more value out of a Beetle than an ant over the course of a run. The problem is you're probably going to not get that value for starters, but secondly, the ant might buff a unit that you legitimately keep till the end of the game, whereas the Beetle probably won't be. You'll have sold your Beetle before you pick something up in the shop that you run to the end of the game. Not guaranteed, sometimes it is pretty nice, just to stack your Beetle. But, it's pretty few and far between. This rating also is going to go pretty close with this Ladybug. I'm actually going to put the Ladybug a little bit behind it, though. I think the Ladybug sits somewhere in the Brew tier. And I'm going to put you around... I'll put you around the Penguin, I think. So the Beetle is, if a friend eats a shop food, it gets +1/+1. Again, early on, you can literally just buff animals. Like, if you can get a Beetle and a Ladybird, or Ladybug, sorry for Americans, you feed this, it gives +1 to something in your shop. This gets +1/+1 as well as like the food buff. Like, it's like getting an early Pear. It's actually insane, and this can legitimately take you into the mid game, and you're pretty content by things. I think these two are very, very strong early game creatures, especially on the expansion pack. I think that's where the expansion pack might actually, have a little bit of a leg up on the free to pay pack. I think that combo is better than, the free to play pack. By the way, the Ladybug is a 1/3 in stats, not a 2/3, which is fair because it can get a 1/1, so it can be a 2/4 pretty readily. If it levels up, it gets +2/+2. If you level up again, it's +3/+3. Again, you're going to have a pretty good chance of leveling this up to at least level 2, because, it's a tier 1 animal. You see them in every shop. I legitimately think it's just good. Next, another tier 1 animal, the Bluebird. It's a 2/1 that gives 1 attack permanently to the unit at the back. So this is like what I think the horse should be, but with the only strings attached to it that it should be at the back. But it's not a temporary one, it's a permanent health upgrade. What do I think of the animal? I think you're in CO2 tier. I think you're basically worthless. You might buy it and temporarily gain a 1 attack stat, and that's like its best, case scenario. I don't think you buff an animal for attacks for the same reason I mentioned in the last part. Legitimately, health is more important than attack in the early game. I think that's just a general consensus. Obviously, again, you can find scenarios where that's not the case. There are matchups where, you know, you probably want a lot of attack versus a peacock rather than a lot of health. But, by the by, you want health, not attack. And the bluebird just enables attack. Its stats are too low as well, I think. Like, even if you gain 1 buff off it, that's a 3-1. It's only 4 total in stats versus, like, 2 3s. You might get, like, sniped by a mosquito as well. I just don't think there's a lot going for it. And this, honestly, realistically, there should be another tier here, I think. I could justifiably put it here, I think, at the end of Ice tier. But I honestly think you are, like... I think you're in solid CO2 tier. I think you're more aligned to the horse than the hedgehog. Even though I probably buy the bluebird more than the hedgehog. I think this is more sensible. The hedgehog is like a super niche scenarios where it's viable. Same with you. I just don't think you have that. Right. This is, oops, the cat that confuses me all the time. What are you even called? Are you called... You're called Tabby Cat, even though you just look at Ginger Cat. This is one that confuses me. If he eats shop food, he gets +1 health until the end of battle. He's a tier 2 animal. He has 4/3 attack. Eats shop food at level 2, he gets +2 attack, and at level 3 it's +3 attack. On paper, your effect isn't terrible. You're like the rat, but you haven't got a downside to you. You really only have like the upside. And that is you eating food. The problem with that is, though, that I don't think you scale well into the end game. Your effect isn't fantastic. You don't, you know, gain stats permanently out of control, so there's other units that are better at eating food than you. For those reasons, I'm going to put you in the ice tier. And I think I'm going to put you pretty low down in the ice tier, honestly. I think I'd rather have every unit in front of you than, you know, than you. The only times I ever buy you basically is if I have a slot and 3 gold. And I just stick you in there, and you might be the only thing in the shop. I would honestly buy some tier 1 animals over you. That's how little I rate you. But, what could I do to change it? Honestly, make the attack permanent, I think. Then I think it's viable. You have a legitimate benefit from it. It's hard to say that, I suppose, because, you know, the rabbit is a tier higher than that, and it gets +1 health. And it's on a friend eating food, which I think does include itself, actually. Maybe you stat it down a little bit and give it the permanent stat instead. Maybe that's, you know, the balance you need. But I think this can be, you know... I think this can be fixed and be improved. I think there's some creatures here that legitimately in the mechanic just will never be strong. Like, I don't think the bison will ever really be strong unless the scaling was out of control. I don't think the gator will ever be particularly strong because... Unless, like, a build required, and it was the strongest build, a unit in slot 5. In which case, you know, maybe. In fact, I had considered at one point that maybe it wouldn't be too bad to make the monkey buff the front unit, but it had to be the back unit too. It's not great target to snipe, but, you know, if you do snipe it, it's 1 less enemy. So you at least will be getting a kill. Which, again, might improve you, but not a lot. Okay, the Dromedary. I have a history with the Dromedary. I really want it to work. So it's a 2/4 level 2 creature. Sorry, tier 2 creature. That gives shop animals on the start of your turn 1/1. When you tier it up, I think it gives 2/2 and then 3/3. Yes. So the dream scenario is you get an early Dromedary at tier 2 on turn 3. And then there's something in the shop, that a tier 3 creature that you want to have, which can gain a benefit from being buffed repeatedly. I've tried to do the blowfish with hurt synergies, but it's never really worked. But really any unit, and you just leave it frozen, the Dromedary every turn ticks up 1/1, 1/1, 1/1, and then eventually you substitute out that team and you bring in your, you know, your super squad or your super unit, and then you stomp the game. Problem. It's better to get things proactive than reactively. You don't want to be trading away your lives for this, and that's basically what you're doing. And if you are, you have to get a huge buff from doing that. I think the Dromedary is too slow. I've had it semi-work once, ever, and I've tried to run this multiple times. I love the idea of the meme build, but I just don't think it's there for it. What would I do to change it? I don't know how this would, like... I think there's legitimate reason to play around with this. Maybe try its level 2 effect as its level 1 and, go to +2/+2, then +3/3, then 4/4. Maybe even +2/+2, 4/4, and then 6/6, and just see, like, if that's actually insane. Alternatively, scale that maybe to, like, 1/2 instead, so you get a bit more health, so a bit more survivability. The other problem with it is if you're going to just do, like, an entire squad and freeze the shop, you basically can't use your shop anymore, and that's really detrimental to your other units. So the only other thing I can think of is that maybe it gives you one more shop space or something as an effect. But even then, I think if it was one more shop space and the same effect, it'd still be terrible. Basically, I think Dromedary, you have a niche case where I don't think you're awful, but I think you always come out as a loser. So you're going in hedgehog tier. As much as I love you, you're a hedgehog. But probably with actually less benefits to you, so I will put you slightly down. Bat, sorry. Bat is a 1/3 now. You were nerfed because you were a 1/5 in the past. I remember that. Those dark days of you being a 1/5. Oh, he's a 1/2, so I'm going to 1/3. Your effect is at the start of battle, you make an enemy weak, which means they take 3 extra damage. It used to be 5, but it's now 3. Then at level 2, it's 2 enemies, and then level 3, it's 3 enemies. This looks unassuming. You got like 3 extra damage, You could look at it on paper and say it's a 4/2. That's not that good. It's actually insanely good. It's so good because of the one reason that the armor and stuff, like the food stuff, is so strong. Like putting garlic on a unit is insane. Putting melon armor on a unit is insane. If you can purge that with the weakness and remove its benefit, you can legitimately clear units out. If you can make a 50-50 tier 3 bat, you're probably going to win the game. I see bat analogous to the turtle, so I'm going to put you around the turtle tier. You probably have very fewer synergies. Like, again, I like being proactive rather than reactive. Like, applying my own melon armor to my units is a bit more proactive. But then again, you're not really protecting from snipes. The bat effect will still go off. It's like anti-snipe technology. You're very similar. I kind of like the turtle a bit more, though. But there is no doubt that a 50-50 tier 3 bat would actually stomp. So, I think you go up here. But, again, it's an early game. Buy it. The +3 damage is actually pretty useful as well early on. When it was +5, it was insane. It was just a must-run, must-pick. I don't think it's must-run, must-pick anymore, but it's very strong. It's one of the few units early game that can literally survive till the end game. So you can legitimately justify buffing it early on as well and getting the buffs like for the rest of the game. Unlike other units where you might buff it and then sell it in the future and effectively lose that gold. You don't lose it, but you do lose it for the end, if you know what I mean. You got the benefit of it for getting you the wins in the middle, I suppose, is where you get the value. Right, hatching chick. +5/+5 to the unit in front of you. You're a level 3 unit, tier 3 unit, sorry. You're actually the most interesting unit in the game, potentially, because you have drastically different effects as you level up. Tier 3, 1/1. Give 5/5 to the friend ahead for the end of battle. Then at level 2, it's +2/+2 to the friend ahead, but it's permanent. And then at level 3, it's 1 experience to the friend ahead. What's really weird about this unit is I think its level 1 effect is better than its level 2 and level 3 effect, or at least most useful. You sort of sit in a similar circumstance to the turtle, I suppose, and, well, maybe the turtle, I suppose. But Turtle Scorpion, it's one of those units you can buy justifiably at the very end, and just run it for a turn and get some decent value off it. I think you're the worst unit at doing that, but at the time of the game you get it, as in tier 3, +5/+5 is insane. It's like 7 gold's worth of stats for 3 gold. It's so strong. Therefore, I'm putting you in Brew tier, and honestly, I think you're high in the Brew tier. In fact, you might even be Microwave Meal N tier. I think you are. Because your level 2 effect actually becomes the monkey effect, so I say it's worse. It's not worse. It gives you a short-term dip, but it's not bad to get it. I probably would go to 2. I wouldn't normally level you up to level 3 for the experience. I don't think that is worth it. I think that it's a worse effect. But you're better than the penguin, so I think you are a tier above. I'm going to drop you in here somewhere. And you're probably going to sit... I think you're going to sit here around the ant. A great unit just to pick up and play. A lot of flexibility, I like it. The pupper. If you have 2 gold left, the pupper gets +2/+2, right? And then it's +4/+4 and +6/+6. Just want to check to make sure my stuff is right. It is right. So your restriction is you only spend, like, you know, you have to leave 2 gold. So it's like spending 8 gold per turn. But you get this +2/+2 scaling. Getting it at tier 3 is one of the best scaling units you can get early on. When you think about it, it's got the scaling of the bison without, like, a huge restriction on it. 2 gold versus, you know, getting a tier 3 unit, which costs you 9 gold. Yeah, 9 gold. It's, you know, it's not comparable. The pupper, again, is one of those units that you get early on, and I think you have to try it. This is going to look stupid, but I'm going to run it next to the dog. I think these 2 units are very similar, the pupper and the dog. Not just because, you know, they are the same creature. They're both units, if you pick up early and just, like, invest in it, you've got a good chance of making a strong unit that benefits your other units. You know, like your caterpillars, or butterfly, your turtles, your hatching chicks, just anything like that. Truffle Fish, you are a tier... Again, I think you're a tier 2 that I think is a tier 3. No, you are a tier 3. It's the opposite this time. Second guess myself. You're a 2/4 tier 3 animal. You would give adjacent friends at the end of turn +1 health. If you tier up, it's +2 and then +3. It's not bad, but you're honestly, and this might not surprise people, you're basically giraffe tier. You have the same effect of the giraffe, but you're a bit more restrictive that you have to be in between 2 units and you only give them 1 health. I do value probably... I probably value early game 0-2 over 1-1. But I think with the restrictions, you're probably just behind the giraffe. You're basically a giraffe. Your colour scheme is even the same as the giraffe. So you can sit next to one another. I don't have much else to say about it, frankly. It's another unit I'd probably pick up for a round or 2 and then just sell and feel pretty content about my things. My decisions. Owl. You're a 5/3 tier 3 creature. I'm going to check it again because I'm now second guessing everything I'm doing. Yes. Your effect is if you sell it, you give a random friend +2. And this doesn't change, I believe, as it goes up. So, it's literally the definition of Boogie Woogie. It's buy me, sell me. But the stats on it are pretty good, honestly. 5/3 as a level 3. No, tier 3. I was saying it right. It's pretty good. Great with the dog, which I've put in the blue tier. The buffalo, which I'm going to do soon, is also around this tier. As a result, I'm putting it in the same tier. I think you're around penguin status. Probably a little bit higher than penguin because you actually have good stats. So you can legitimately buy the owl, run it for a turn, then sell it the next turn and feel pretty good about things. And that's normally what I do. So I think you're going into the blue tier. Skunk. Okay, this, I have to admit, is a creature that I see a lot now endgame, but I've never really played with. I think if it was completely up to me, and not thinking about it, I'd drop the skunk somewhere in the ice tier, because I very, very, very rarely run it. So the skunk, I don't even know what tier you're in. Are you tier 4? Yes, you're a tier 4 creature. You're a 3/5. And at the start of battle, you reduce an enemy with the highest health by 33%. If you tier it up, it's 66 and then 100%. I don't know if that just kills you. I've never seen a tier 3 skunk. It's just suddenly dawned on me. I've seen the 66%. This is going to be one of the rare units that it scales very well into the end game. If you can get a 50-50 one of these and it reduces someone's health by, 100%, you're laughing because that'll go through Melon armor. It's not doing damage, it just reduces it. So, for that reason, I think the skunk has to be a decent animal. The problem is when you get it, it's not going to be great. It's a random unit. No, it's the highest health on it. But it's random of the 2 that it's going to be. If it's like 2... I'm just getting lost in the sauce right now. If there are 2 units of the same health, it's going to do 1 at random, I think. Which isn't great. Also, a lot of the time at tier 4, there's not a big gap between the unit with the highest health and the next unit below. But it's probably still doing like 3 or 4 damage. You're probably doing like what a dolphin's doing, but you're not sniping a unit. You're hitting the healthiest unit, which often is also the unit with the most attack. I honestly think, again, so other people's lists might change than this. I think you're around dolphin tier. I can see, like, 50-50 skunk becoming meta. Like, a tier 3 50-50 skunk. And maybe that's honestly something that we look at next time I play a run. Trying to get a really strong skunk and just seeing how it matches up. And maybe it should be higher. But I can only see it being very strong at the very end of the game. As opposed to most other creatures that like get a benefit early on. And then maybe scale up. You definitely get your benefit at the end of the game. The chicken. You know what? I put the squirrel as the worst creature. I think, actually, you might be the worst. I legitimately never got the chicken to work. Your ability is stupid. So, in fact, I've thought of something else that might be worse. You're a tier 5 animal, the chicken. You're a 3-4. If you buy a tier 1 animal, you give current and future shop animals +1/+1. Then it's +2/+2, +3/+3. You're like the dragon, but you're like... Your effect is delayed because it has to go into a shop animal, which you have to buy then again in the future. So not only do you have to buy the the tier 1, and then probably sell it. So you're spending 2 gold in that transaction. You then have to buy the animal in the shop for the future, and freeze the shop, and lose the space in that shop. No, it's way too many strings attached for the effect. It should be +2/+2. I know it's permanent for the future, so actually you don't have to freeze it, sorry. I'll take that one back. You don't have to freeze it. You can just leave it. But there's the plus... It's a 2-cost can. But you have to run the chicken on your squad. I think that's the best way to see it. And honestly, by the end of the game, I'm not normally buying cans anymore. So you come too late in the game. If you came early, then yes. If you came too early, you'd be broken. But honestly, like the can, I think is a tier 4 equipment or food. Would it be too broken if this was tier 3? Would that be too good scaling? I don't know. But maybe if it comes in tier 4, maybe 1 tier down, you'd be at least viable. But I legitimately don't think you're runnable. I think it's throwing running you. Maybe if you got the dream turn, you turn into tier 5, you get a chicken. In fact, is Dragon even on the expansion pack? I think it is. But you get the chicken, you tier something up and level it up to like a next level, and you get a tier 6 animal and you get the dragon and you go, you know what, I'm going to take a punt. Maybe that is like the only scenario where you can consider it, but it's such a niche scenario. I basically never run it. Okay. I'm going to be fully, transparent about this. I don't understand the lobster. I just don't get it. I bought you once and I just don't understand it. So the lobster effect is a 3/3 tier 4 animal. If a friend is summoned, you give it +2/+2, but not when it's in battle. Then it's +4/+4, but not when in battle. And then +6/+6 when not in battle. Why would I give something stats when it's not in battle? I don't understand. And for that reason, that your effect is obtusely complicated, I'm putting you as the worst animal in the game. I bought you once and never again. And I immediately sold you the turn afterwards. Speaking of obnoxiously bad animals, here's another one. It's the llama. The llama, I think, is tier 3. No, it's tier 4 as well. You come way too late as well. If you have 4 or less animals, it gains +2/+2. Again, if you have 4 or less animals, it gains +4/+4. And then 4 or less animals, 6/6. It is a 2/5 creature. You come way too late to justify running you. If you're a tier 3 animal, I would consider it. Your stats are so bad that your scaling is the same as the puppy, but the puppy will be stronger by that turn. And he doesn't have the restriction of, losing one person in the squad. That being said, I think you're better than the rat, the squirrel, the chicken, and the lobster, but you're definitely in solid CO2 tier. Which again is why I kind of thought the expansion pack would be worse. There are so many creatures in the expansion pack which are just worthless. Not the poodle though. The poodle gives +1/+1 to all animals on your squad of a different tier. Which is fantastic. It's great scaling. It's actually something that can compare to the monkey in scaling. And therefore I'm going to put it in such a tier. I think you're around the microwavable meal tier. Pretty high on it as well. It's normally like fighting whether or not you get like a monkey or a poodle, and both their scalings are very good. I should give the full description of the poodle as well. You are a tier 4 creature, same tier as the monkey. You're a 4/2, but it's not really your deal. It's +1/+1 to different animal tiers. Then it's +2/+2, then it's +3/+3. It can hit itself as well, it's a tier 4. So if you run, like, you know, when it comes out a 1, 2, 3, 4, that's +4/+4 in stats every turn. It costs you no money. That is value. If, again, you go to tier 5, you have all 5 different tiers, you're getting the effect of the dragon with very minimal restrictions, honestly. So I think you're just a better dragon. Why do I rate you less than the monkey, even though you're giving more stats? I think it's because it's better to go tall than it is to go wide, I think. That's how I'm going to justify this. Also, when you start to do the numbers, it's better to run the Poodle with another scaling unit to really, like, get it up there. Because, like, as I said, it's good to cheat out stats, and the crab is good for cheating out stats. The caterpillar is great for cheating out stats. The Poodle is just too fair. It spreads itself too wide. Everything gets a little bit of a buff. You find that they trade with, like, one thing with, like, insane attack and health, like, multiple times, and it just wipes your squad out. But I don't think that animal should be changed. I think that's actually good for the balancing. I don't think it should be much stronger than that. I think that scaling balance is just about right. I think the monkey targeting is too good. I think they should knock a bit of the attack off, maybe the monkey. Maybe make it 1-2. And then we'd be talking. But I don't know. I think it's hard for the balancing sake. Maybe it's just something that, like, they mess about with multiple times. Maybe make it 1-3 or something instead, or 3-1. I honestly don't know. Well, these two units make the scaling build happen, frankly. Mainly 2 monkeys, I have to admit. But yeah, I think that's where we put the Poodle. The Buffalo. Let me just check who are called the Buffalo. Not the Water Buffalo. Yes, just the Buffalo. Tier 4, 5/5. If a friend is bought, you gain +1/+1. Then it's +2/+2, then +3/3 if you level it up. So you're like the dog, but it's not on a summon, it's on a board. So you don't have to have the extra spot to, you know, summon a creature into. This means you're better than the dog, in my opinion. I'm going to drop you into the back end of Microwave or Meal tier. You do come out later than the dog, I'll give you that. But I found that if you combine 3 animals on turn 7, I think it is, and get a Buffalo, it's a great unit to scale up. It can legitimately be one of those units that, you know, you do buy me, sell me, you do some boogie wooging, and you pick up a monkey or something, or a Poodle later, and you just scale it out of control. It's admittedly worse with the Poodle because it's also a tier 4, so the Poodle will miss its scaling. But that's not the worst thing, because honestly, you'd probably sell a Poodle for a monkey if you had to. You'd probably try and run both, though, for a little bit. But again, the problem with that is the monkey, I think, is the same tier as all 3 of them, so they won't get the benefit of the Poodle. So you'd probably sell the Poodle for a monkey. But I found pretty consistently, if you can get one of these early, you can get it up there in stats. And again, steamroll your enemies. It's the #1 strategy. Okay. Final stretch of animals. We have the goat. If a friend... What is it? Is a friend is sold, you get extra gold? I can't remember now. Friend is bought, you gain 1 gold, and it works 3 times per turn. And if it levels up, it works 6 times and 9 times per turn. Tier 5 creature, you're a 4/5. For economy, buy me, sell me builds, you're pretty good. Unfortunately, you come so late into the game that you're not normally buying me and selling me anymore. You're looking to tier into an animal that just gives you scaling across the board. Namely, dragons, T-Rexes, poodles, the monkeys. So I've never had great use of the goat. I don't think it's a bad unit. But I think, again, it's a bit of a niche unit that is it's just a bit too late in the game. I think you're in Gazpacho tier, but I don't think you're horrible. I think you're usable. I think you're around the Mosquito. I think you're around here. This tier where maybe you have like 2 slot flex and you put the goat in it and you get a value for 1 turn off the goat or something, and, you know, you're pretty happy with that. But then you're probably not going to run it much longer. I've never tiered up the goat. I don't know, maybe I'm missing out. Goat plus dragon I can see being a good build, but you have way more steps than goat plus dragon versus T-Rex, which we'll come to at the end, apparently. Right, Eagle. Tier 5 creature, if it dies, it summons a tier 6 creature. Is it restricted in stats? I don't remember. You're basically like the spider. You have some high rolls, but equally you have some pretty low rolls. Yeah, it's just one level 1 tier 6 animal. When it tiers up, it's level 2, then level 3. It's okay. Again, I think you're just a pretty average unit. You're pretty good on the old health, just stat-wise. You're not going to dominate someone. And honestly, there's not many tier 6 animals which are hugely beneficial. You're basically just there for stats. I've never tried to run you in a like a turkey build or something like that. But I could see you being okay in a turkey build. I'm going to stick you somewhere in the middle of the sandwich tier. Basically, every time I've run an eagle, it's just because I've had a slot and some gold to spare. I've just dropped it out there. I guess the dream is you get eagle, and then you roll into mammoth. That gives you stats across the board. And, you know, then you've gained a lot of stats just for 3 gold. It could be like, you know, it's one of those units that you invest in, and it maybe gives you more value in the investment, but doesn't really scale up beyond that. I think that's where the eagle sits. If it came out a slot earlier, you'd probably run it more consistently, and it was like a tier 4 gave you a tier 6. The problem with that, though, is, and this is the other scenario of the eagle being useful, and again, why I'm trying to like hedge my bets and put it in the middle. If you pillar an eagle, you can get a tier 6 animal on tier 5 turn. You can do that by the 3 combined, but this is a way of doing it with just, you know, 2-shot things. You can high roll and get a T-Rex. You could high roll and get a dragon or something, and, you know, start buying me, sell me. You can get a... What else can you get from T-Rex? You get a tiger. And you'll be pretty happy to get one of those early. So for that scenario as well, I think you sit a little bit higher up in the sandwich tier, but I think only like here. But not terrible. I don't hate you. Right, what are you actually called? Are you called bacteria? You're called Microbe! Of course you're called Microbe. Its effect is it faints and makes every enemy weak. It's a tier 5 animal and it's a 1-1, so it's almost guaranteed to die in 1 hit. In fact, it is guaranteed to die in 1 hit now that I think about it. It doesn't have a level up effect, it's always make every animal weak, and weak does 3 extra damage anytime it takes damage. The Microbe has a really neat, like, off-meta build, where you take a Microbe, put it in slot 1, it dies, makes everyone weak, and you put a level 3 turtle behind it, the turtle dies because it's also weak, so it'll die in 1 hit. And then every unit behind it has Melon armor, and you ideally stat them out of control. Unfortunately, I think that build often loses to, you know, a non-micro build with, like, a non-micro build with a turtle in it. So I can't really value the Microbe super highly. But your niche uses are actually more useful than some of the other animals on here, like, you know, the hedgehogs, for example. So this might look stupid, but I'm going to drop you in the Brew tier for your one useful example. Other than that, I think you're a terrible unit. If the turtle did not exist, you would be terrible. You live and die by this turtle. But the turtle is basically universally, you know, loved and adored. You, not so much. Now, if another unit existed in the game that, you know, dropped garlic, for example, and I don't know what would do that, or something that dropped coconut, maybe like a coconut crab appeared, and it's like, if this unit dies, the unit behind gets coconut. Maybe the Microbe would gain a second build, but I just don't think it can work. The other slight issue with the Microbe, but it doesn't really come up that often, is if your turtle gets sniped by, let's say, a leopard, and again, not many people run leopards, your Microbe turtle build is just destroyed. So you will probably tie or lose. Probably lose. Because you'll have one less unit. Honestly, I don't know what you do. Another dinosaur. Your sauropod. Buy food, gain 1 gold. You work 3 times per turn. Then it's 6 times and 9 times on the levels. You are a 412 at tier 6, so you're a very high statted unit. Unfortunately, I think you're useless, basically. It's one of those things, again, where you want to run, like, maybe 3 units getting stats and then 2 units, like, utility / buffing. The best case scenario is that you run it with, like, a cat or something, or you have a worm. But normally, I think you just want, like, a monkey instead. Like, the buying the food thing is just not as efficient as getting it for free passively at the end of each turn. And you're then relying on the shop giving you the foods that you want, and it's so infrequently you get like a Pear, which is your +2/+2 enabler. If you just see multiple shops where, you know, there's just chilies in there, it's like just all chili and garlics or something, you're not going to buy them because it's going to overwrite your already like existing food. So I don't think you're good enough standalone, and you come so late into the game that I don't think you can be justified to buy you. It's kind of like the seal, honestly. I think you're too late in the game. Your restriction is... It's just not worth discounting it. I legitimately don't think it's worth discounting it. Unless it discounted it by more. But then it might be broken. If there was more food slots open, like if it was... I discount 1 gold and your shop will get 3 foods. Then I think you could be talking. There would be a legitimate scenario that you're then likely enough to get like a pair each turn without, spending on the reroll or something. That you could make it work. And again, I'm sure people are going to show me that it's worked for them, but I think it's a niche case again. Like all niche cases, I think you're going to go into ice tier. Are you worse than the Dromedary? Honestly, I think you're here. I think you're in the ice tier. You're probably better than a hedgehog, but probably worse than a crocodile, honestly. They probably have more uses. The blowfish, not awful early on if you get stats on it. But not for the, hurts energy, just actually having raw stats. And then accidentally proccing once or twice, maybe. Garlic can get, yeah. I think I'm content with this. I think you're actually difficult to balance it. I think if you came out much earlier, you'd be insanely strong. And you are well statted. I don't know. Honestly, I'm going to put you down here, but I might experiment with you. And see if you're actually as bad as I think you are. Octopus. You're an 8/8 tier 6 creature. On a level up, you gain +8/+8. Then +8/+8 and a new ability. And then, before you attack, you do 5 damage to all enemies. You, at tier 3, murder all summon builds, is basically your effect. If the tier 3 effect was on it natively, you'd probably be sitting in microwavable meal. But because you have to actually tier it up to 3, and it's a tier 6 unit, so you're probably looking at, I don't know how many turns you'd spend at like tier 6 units. It's not that long though, it's like maybe 3 or 4 rounds, or turns. It's so hard to get you to tier up. The one time you do it, like, you feel unstoppable. There's too much strings attached to you though. I'm going to put you at the very back end of sandwich tier, but I think I'm being very kind to you. Just because your high roll potential means that you would actually be legitimately ran. But you are super, super, like, niche on that. If you can get it out and you're lucky, like maybe you combine 2 units up a level at tier 5 and you get 2 octopi, and that starts, going, you get some chocolate, then this could actually go up tiers, as I've mentioned. It could actually get into microwavable tier. More often than not, though, you would buy an octopus and just never get the benefit. Sure, maybe you get the +8/+8 at some point, and it gives you some scaling. Great. You've also then just sold, your 2020 to give yourself an 8/8 to start this process. The juice is not worth the squeeze. It's kind of difficult, though. The juice is worth the squeeze, but it's a lot of squeezing, and by the time you've squeezed it, you've died of dehydration. Our final unit that I'm going to rate right now. The T-Rex. Not dropping you there, sorry, I'm just scrolling the screen. The T-Rex, in my opinion, is the best buffing unit, other than maybe the monkey. But it's close. You're basically in the same sort of tier. I might put you ahead of the monkey, in fact. So the T-Rex is, if you have 3 gold left at the end of your turn, all units get +2/+2. You heard me, +2/+2. The silly dragon, you have to buy a unit, sell a unit, buy a unit. So I spend 5 gold, and that will give you +2/+2. It'll copy its effect for 5 gold. This guy has no restrictions by like what's in the shop. You don't have to like re-roll to get your your tier 1 animals, which might not be in the shop. You just get it. It's free. Well, it's not. It costs you 3 effectively, but you can easily plan for that. It's so controllable. If you tier this up and you get it early enough, you win. It's 10 wins. That's what the T-Rex is. The only reason I'm not going to put you at the very tippy top is that the rooster is just busted. If you can, like, you get 3 of them or something, and it's like 50 plus 1s plus a 50. It's like 4 units effectively. But the T-Rex is so good. It's so, so good. It's the ultimate scale lord. Anytime like I generate a tier 6 animal, I always hope that it's a T-Rex. And I almost always pick it up. Even for the monkey, I would take the monkey out and put a T-Rex in. And It doesn't hit itself, right? Yes, it's other friends. So you're actually only getting +8 per turn. And I say only, so, you know. That's the one difference with the dragon. It gives itself that. So I suppose the analogy wasn't quite equal. But it's close enough to being equal, in my opinion. No strings attached, +2/+2. What can you complain about? Yes, okay, there is a string attached. You leave 3 gold. It's easy. The amount of runs I've had where I've had a puppy and then a T-Rex is insane. It guarantees you a 50-50 puppy, and that's going to stomp the game. Then you just put melon armor on it, you smoke a cigar, and you watch those wins and trophies just, you know, like, your eyes are just seeing trophies, like, going down, and you just cash all those in. That is what the T-Rex is. Anyway, just quickly looking at this, I'm content. I think this is my tier list for the combined animal packs. So this is expansion pack plus the base pack mixed together. Again, tell me in the comments below what you think of this pack. But I'm just going to quickly now go to the foods and we'll quickly rate them as well. See you in a moment. Hey everybody, welcome back to the tier list. So we now have the food, and I've gone back to the old tier list actually, but just removed all the animals off it. So there's not many food, so we're going to blast through this pretty quickly. I've kept the same tier list as before, and let's just get down to it, honestly. So the apple. Also, I haven't got a little list with me this time, so I'm just going to go by the seat of my pants. An apple is a tier 1 fruit, so you can get it immediately. It gives you +1/+1. It is always, or almost always, better to just... got a cat hair in my nose as well now. Great start. It's almost always better to combine a unit of the same type that you want to get the 1/1 that way, plus the experience. So it's pretty bad, honestly. I'm going to put it in Gazpacho, but you'd almost always want something else. The only reason I've not put it lower than that is there's a lot of creatures that have, you know, eat or buy food monikers to it. So it at least procs those. If you can get like a rabbit and it gives you 1/2 instead, then, you know, you're laughing. Meat. Brew tier. +5 attack per hit. Doesn't wear off, it's just +5 attack per hit. That is fantastic. It is legitimately just fantastic. You know what? I'm missing a food off this. Brilliant. Because I went on to the previous pack, it hasn't got the expansion pack on it. Well, I'll just tell you the expansion pack food when I get to it, which is going to be a steak. Anyway, it's +5 attack permanently, unlike the steak, which is +20 attack just for a single turn. And early on, I can't remember exactly where the tier comes out. It comes out like 2/3. I think it's 3, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's 2. It's very strong. Like, it outscales anything else. It outscales, like, your units. And the other reason it has to be in brew tier is crab plus meat is very strong. The only reason I've not got it higher is it doesn't scale well to the end game, so you almost always replace it. But you get the value from the early game. It gives you wins early on, so I like it. It's between these two tiers, but I think it's top of brew. A can. +3 to all animals in the shop from now until the future. Sandwich tier. This comes out at like tier 4, I think. And it's a nice thing to buy if you're doing buy me, sell me, because you're always rotating your animals. If you're about to pivot to a new build, again, it's nice to buy them, or you're planning to pivot maybe, you just buy it so that you get those stats in the future. But rarely do you want to buy this late game, and sometimes you don't want to buy it early game either. It's kind of one of those things you just buy if you're about to float 3 gold. Chili. You're going to go into brew tier, but it's close. Chili makes your unit have splash damage. Very good at popping melon armor. The niche example now that it's started to work well as is, as I said, people are running scorpions in Sloth 2. You chili your front unit, it breaks the melon, and then it hits the scorpion behind it. But you are trading melon on your unit for that, so sometimes it's not worth it. Hence why I've put you into brew tier. Coconut. You are the ghost chili tier. You cannot buy this, which again, I think is a bit of a cheat, and why this list is a bit complicated. The ability to block all damage for one shot is unparalleled, you cannot beat it. The only way you can proc it though is on a gorilla, and the gorilla is so hard to... I say it's so hard, it's harder to proc it on, that it's basically non-existent, it's a non-entity. But in itself, it is insanely strong. Garlic, microwavable tier. Only because you get this early. I think this is like tier 3 as well. It's around there. Every time you take damage, you take 2 less damage. When you get it in the early game, what do your units have? Low attack. Therefore, they are going to hit for only like 1 or 2 damage per hit, which again is why I said health is king. You put a lot of health on your unit, a bit of attack, put garlic on it, that guy is a tank, he cannot be killed. You beat all summon builds comfortably. Love the garlic. Honey. Honestly, this again might be a bit of an unpopular take. I'm going to put it in the sandwich tier, and I'm going to put it behind the can. Now, on paper, you might be going like, oh, honey. It is the same as the apple. Honey makes your animal death rattle and produce a 1/1B. Yes, that is like honey. Oh, sorry, like an apple. The only example where that's not the case is when you honey your badger. Or like I was going to say a fucking hamster. A hedgehog. Because then a unit that dies and has a chance to kill all like opponent units or something. Or kill like their last unit, like with a pretty decent chance of, you know, happening. The bee will survive. And therefore you'll be happy that it survives because you'll get a win because of it. And it'll turn a draw into a win. I think that's the minor difference between these two. The other thing that you can actually look at it as is if you pilled that animal, and I'm not saying you start pilling your honey badgers because that's probably stupid, but you can get the bee back off it, which gives you a gold, it gives you a summon trigger. Again, it's a bit of a niche example. Also, what was I going to say? It has another use. Oh, it's good in summon builds as well, early on. Like if you're like suicidal and you want to run the horse build, it's another trigger for the horse. So just because it has a little bit more like uses, I think it's above the apple and it's a tier above. I still think it's a pretty average thing though. The cupcake. I'm going to put you in brew tier. I used to not value the cupcake. It's +3/+3 but only for the next fight. And it comes out at like tier 3, right? Is it 3? It might be 2 actually. This might be the tier 2 food. But honestly, winning early game and getting that momentum going forward and fighting then other builds that, you know, have just been winning games, which typically aren't like these super optimized builds. I think it's good to get ahead of the curve. The cupcake helps you do that. Plus, it triggers a lot of, you know, eat builds. You know, I'm actually thinking of better than the chili pepper. It triggers a lot of, you know, consume mechanics. Just a great little food. Just something, again, you can quietly invest 3 gold into it and feel pretty good. 1-up. Sandwich tier. You're basically anti-snipe meta for flies and tigers, but because that meta is pretty strong, you have to be in the sandwich tier. Otherwise, you'd probably be lower than that. It's not worth giving your creature an extra life, but it comes back as a 1/1, when you could put Melon armor on it. So the stats just don't add up. You'd rather put Melon than this. The only way you don't want this is if you want something to proc again multiple times with a passive, i.e., you want it to be a tiger, a fly, a turkey, a snake, something like that. They then are worth 1-upping. But it's a very small like subset of animals. It just so happens that they're also pretty high on the tier list, hence why you've gone there. In theory, if there was such a creature with like an incredible death rattle, you could put it on the death rattle, but then because you're limited by spaces, it's kind of hard to make like a death rattle sheep work. Because the ram will like, you know, summon 2 rams, then you'll get the 1/1. Sorry, it summons two. No, it does summon two rams. 2 rams. Then it summons a 1/1 sheep, which will then die again and give you 2 rams. That's 4 spots. You're basically going to lose stuff doing that. So there are death rattle animals, which this is pretty good on, but again, I probably would prefer to put like a chili on it or something late game, or a meat on it early game. The peanut, again, is going to be a bit of a complicated matter. I'm going to put you in the high tier microwavable meal. You can't buy the peanut right now. It's only on the scorpion, but it's effectively infinite damage, which is really good. Now, it's not. It's actually just a death touch effect, so if you hit a unit with Melon armor, and every unit at the end of the game probably is going to have Melon armor, a lot of them will do, it does nothing, effectively. Unless you have 21 attack. So, it sits around here. It beats Garlic every day of the week, but it probably loses to Melon more often than not. But you can't buy it. It's only on 1 unit, and that unit is 1/1. Hence why you're going to microwavable tier. Pear. I think I value... Honestly, I might value more than meat, but you're in the brew tier. You're +2/+2 permanently, so you're 1/1 less than the cupcake, but it's a permanent buff. You're a tier 4 fruit, or food. It's just good. Like, what can you say? It's +2/+2. It's the monkey effect for 3 gold. It's probably worth it, especially if you combine that with a cat, a worm, you know, something of a similar ilk, even a A rabbit. Right. The pizza. Pizza is +2/+2 to 2 random creatures. This is going to look a bit wonky again. I kind of value around this tier. But I think I'm going to put you behind the cupcake. It's kind of weird. The fact that it's random is what ruins it for you. You probably have 2 units that you don't really care what the stats are on it. And the pizza more often than not hits those 2 units. Now, if it hits the unit you want, you're happy with it. If all your units have stats, you're happy with it. If you're running like a dinosaur build, like a T-Rex, sorry, specifically, then it's fine. Just throw it out there. It's pretty good value. Just because you can't control it, I think it drops it down a little bit. The pill. Honestly, you're probably the worst thing. You're going to gazpacho tier, but you have a lot of niche uses. Pilling ants early on is nice, pilling flamingos is nice early on rather than selling them, and getting their stats. But realistically, how many creatures do you pill? Ant, flamingo, turtle, that's about it. So those 3 cases is useful. It does only cost 1, so that kind of counters against it. So you might be inclined to put this up here. There are other niche cases that I've mentioned before. You might want to pill a unit that summons another unit, like an eagle, or a spider, especially if you put that in front of the ox and get a death trigger, or a shark. Sure, it has those niche uses. Actually, now that I think about it, I will put you above the apple, but I still think they're too niche to be, like, valuable. I think it's the lowest tier. But when it pops well, so definitely warranted in the game. Sushi. You're +1/+1 to 3 random animals. You are just inherently worse than pizza, and therefore you're going to sit behind pizza. I say you're inherently worse. If you're running a foodie build, you're more likely to hit the animal you want, so I guess that is a benefit. So you might say it's better than the pizza. I think they're just so of a similar ilk that I think I just rate them together. I know I'm going to put this like, well, you know what? Shall I be controversial and rate it like this? Sure. I'll be controversial and rate it like this, but they're practically the same. You lose 1/1 in stats, but it splits across 3 things. Again, it's typically better to go tall than it is to go wider, but if you're trying to hit a specific food animal, this is better. The salad bowl. You're +1/+1, but to 2 creatures, but you come out at like tier 3, I think. Honestly, you're sort of around can tier. Again, if you hit a rabbit or something like early on, that's your best use, rabbit plus salad. Thematically makes sense, I like it. But at the end game, you sort of tail off dramatically. The one food that is missing off here, and I'll pause the game after this just to make sure I'm actually right, is the steak. The steak I'm going to signify as the cow because I don't have the picture on here. The steak is a 1 use +20 damage attack. I don't think this will let you go over the 50 attack cap, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty certain that doesn't work with meat or the steak. But it can be pretty nice if you have like a really weak buffing unit at the front and you use that as a buffer maybe against a scorpion. Like you put your monkey at the front at the very end of a round or something. You know, you're 9 with 1 health left. And you're like, oh my god, if I run into a scorpion, I'm doomed. Put the monkey at the front just to deal with the scorpion. Then put maybe a steak on it and watch it go. It might, snipe one of their units in front. You never know. I think, though, it's behind the mushroom. I think it's sandwich. Oh, actually, you know what? I think you'll guess gazpacho tier. I'm probably pretty down on it. You have 1 niche use and it's very niche. Sometimes you can make a unit go over the top, It might have 30 attack, you put a steak on it and it'll break through Melon armor because that unit is too weak. But you'd probably want Melon over it in the first place. You know what? I'm missing Melon as well. I didn't know Melon was the expansion pack. Why is Melon not on here? Is Melon the expansion pack? Wild. Okay, the turtle will know Melon. Very scuffed build. Melon is the second best thing. An extra attack is worth it. It's basically the same description of the coconut, but your weakness is it only blocks 20 damage. So you can get pierced by death touch if it has 21 attack. How many things, how many scorpions do you come across with 21 attack? Not many. Therefore, Melon armor is just the king. It's the king of kings. You get 1 extra attack. And it guarantees you the extra attack as well if you're a 50-50, because they can only have a 50-50, which means your 50-50 will take 30 damage and become a 50-20. And again, you're laughing, you get another hit in. Hopefully, they don't have the 50-50 and you just slowly the numbers turn in your favour and you'll kill one of their extra units on another hit. And then that's how you get to 10 wins, baby. Right, I'm going to just pause for a second and just check that I've not missed anything else out. Hey, everyone that's shouting that you've missed one food, yes, I am missing one food, I've just seen it. I'm missing chocolate. So chocolate is +1 like experience point to a unit. Again, I didn't know this was on the expansion pack. What here is going to represent chocolate? I don't know any animals that are particularly associated with chocolate. You know what? Brown monkey, you can be my chocolate. The chocolate, honestly, I'm going to put in the microwavable meal tier. You might actually be higher than this. There's so many animals that have an incredible tier 3 effect, like the rooster, the dodo's tier 2 effect, the monkey himself tearing up, that I think it's worth it just to get one of those annoying units to tear up one more time. A T-Rex even. I think that is hugely valuable. Admittedly, as the game goes on, and like, you've tiered up to like, typically tier 2 is normally enough for most creatures. You want the stats instead, but until then, it can be very nice. It can be very clutch, so to speak. Anyway, this is my food tier list. Just to clarify, because I've not got all the pictures here, coconut, melon, chocolate, peanut, garlic, pear, meat, cupcake, sushi, pizza, chili, salad, can, honey, mushroom, pill, steak, apple. And that'll do it for my tier list, just to bring back my other one. Can we see this on the screen? Not great. Let me just fiddle with this a second. You know, let's be very expert about this. Show off those adverts in the corner and just bring it into focus a little bit more. There we go. That's much better now. I didn't realize my tier list went off the screen a little bit. This is my tier list for all creatures from both expansion packs. I think our top 3 are just creatures you want. Rooster, T-Rex, monkey. Universally great. And Scorpion, great value. Anyway, if you disagree with anything I've said, say so in the comments below and we can have a nice, constructive discussion about it. Why not, follow, subscribe, like the video. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.